this over YouTube. So welcome everyone to the first iteration of this Keptn Refinement meeting. The idea of this meeting is to go through our open PR and issues to discuss them in the community setting so everyone can provide inputs and support us with technical decisions. Today, I think Moritz and Andre and Anna have some topic on the agenda, which is Helm charts and repository for the KLT. So, who would like to start? Maybe
I guess I can start together with Anna.
We can start from the bug ticket and the other.
Yeah, do you have it open?
No, of course not, but I can recover them.
Yeah, from now on, we have this document so you can post things in the agenda before the meeting.
Yes, I will do it now, sorry.
No worries, I just created this document 5 minutes ago, so.
Okay.
Okay, I found the bug ticket link, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I just did the same, yes.
Cool.
And the other one is 784.
784, yeah.
Here it
Hi,
is.
Sudipto. Glad you could join us.
Hello, Sudipto.
We are being silly
Hi.
here, so just bear with us.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's start from this one, Anna.
So currently we're working on the Helm chart, which is auto-generated for KLT based from an overlay of Customize. This works in an Aki way, but we followed Helm documentation about CRD handling. And they were suggesting to store our custom defined resources in a folder, which is called CRDs inside the chart structure. And this will be installed every time you do Helm install, only if nothing of those CRDs is already present in the cluster. And this translated in this horrible behavior for which if there is a change in the CRD during development, then using Helm update or Helm install won't work. It won't change the CRD in the cluster. We then did a little bit of digging and we figured out that basically the CRD folder is unusable for us because if we would like to upgrade from one version to the other, a new version of the CRD, so from V1 Alpha 1 to V1 Alpha 2 would not be installed at all via Helm. So this leaves lots of inconsistencies and makes the Helm chart in this form unusable. And we did investigate a few opportunities to change this, but maybe Mo wants to speak about that a bit more.
May I summarize the issue just to see if I understood correctly?
Yeah.
If we follow the documentation and we use the CRD folder, then Helm just installed the CRDs, but any update to this file is not followed through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Helm basically supports initial installation and then doesn't support any lifecycle management of CRDs whatsoever. No updating, no upgrading, nothing.
Yeah,
Even
no way
you
to
cannot,
test.
yeah, you cannot even install a new API version of the same thing if something's already there. So if we have the Keptn app V1 Alpha 1 and we develop V1 Alpha 2, a Helm upgrade wouldn't actually install the new version.
Mm-hmm. So this solution is for sure wrong.
Yeah, that's a hard blocker basically.
Yeah.
And then we kind of I mean, yeah, with our project, we are of course not the first ones to stumble over this, and we kind of looked at different basically workarounds that people did. And there are a few, but it's really like it's hacky
Workaround.
workarounds, nothing more.
I
There's
guess
no actual solution, and there's also no no initiative from the Helm maintainers to change that anytime soon.
And the complication is added by our plan to add a default CRD configuration.
Yeah.
Because then we install something that depends on CRDs. And this causes a problem for the order of the installation.
yeah, what I saw in the past, like they're doing in Prometheus and Grafana, they name 0 as a prefix, all the CRDs. So they're applied before everything else.
The actual CRDs.
But it's, yeah, the
Or
name of
the
the
files.
file, the files. But that's only not with Helm charts.
Yeah,
That's when you,
that
yeah,
doesn't apply with Helm.
because Helm does the ordering inside itself.
I guess that works with kubectl.
Yeah, so we kind
Mm.
of went through some of those workarounds then and kind of figured out if it would even be viable, if any of those would be viable for us, basically.
What are the workarounds? So dependency chart afterwards, what do we have?
Everything in the same
Dependency
template.
charts is not even an option.
Yeah, no.
So this doesn't work because Helm will still put all the stuff together from dependencies as well and then figure out the order, and then you have the same issue again. An example of this would be Keptn 1.0 basically.
With
If you
Mongo.
install that, MongoDB will install at the same time as any other deployment, not before.
Pre-hooks
Even
of Helm.
though
Pre-hooks start jobs, and you have no way of guarantee that the job will stop and finish before Helm runs. So this is like restart stuff in Kubernetes, the same. You know when it starts, you don't know when it finishes.
What else do we have as an option, Moritz?
Everything in the same template.
everything in the same template, so we don't use the CRDs folder, but just treat the CRDs as any other template. So it's just in the templates folder inside the Helm chart. And with that, we had issues with conversions again, I think.
The problem is we have to be very careful then what you are applying in the Helm upgrade comment, because you can override everything.
Yeah.
Like I was able to go from an API v1 to an API v4, and stuff were messed up in the cluster, of course.
Yeah, so you could remove an API version, for example. And if for some reason there's an actual resource of that API version in the cluster, it will just be gone. Helm will delete the CRD and the CRO will be gone.
Of course, if we use a proper, but there is no way to guarantee.
Yeah, and we would need to find a way, or always keep in mind that we never run into this situation where we actually remove a version that could.
So we need to always
be
include
used.
all previous
All of the
CRDs
versions.
versions.
Yes.
Basically that. And even then, we couldn't actually do updates, like compatible updates to the same CRD version, even though that's actually something that's supported in Kubernetes. So adding an optional field, for example, with a default. You could do that in the same API version. That would mean for us that we probably will have data loss.
Something else?
The two independent charts.
Yeah, basically have two independent charts, no dependency between them, one with all the CRDs inside and one with the resources. And you need to install them one after the other manually. And wait, even then.
In all of them, we discussed that rollback would not be an option. Most of the time, you risk user fucking up everything.
Yeah, so rollback with Helm is not an option with any of those solutions.
Which raises the question, is Helm even an option if we cannot even roll back?
I think the best way for us to move forward is Helm chart and installs the lifecycle toolkit operator that then spawns the right set of tools and resources.
So you would go for the single template?
No, what I mean is to use to be a real operator.
Have a
In the
management
sense,
operator on top.
yeah,
Basically.
and the chart deploys just this management operator.
And our operator installs CRD later?
The management operator will install the CRDs and everything and spawn up the right resources, such as the KLT cert manager, operator, metric server adapter, and such.
And this would be the what we have now for configuration. Or could be.
Yeah.
But you would still have CRDs.
Sure.
For
That
that
would
single operator, maybe one, yeah.
Could
Yes,
be a
but
config map.
this leads to the same problem.
Not really, because then we can manage the lifecycle of the CRDs. And we can ensure that the right versions are installed and the right versions are removed at the right point in time and stuff. It's hugely more effort, of course, but yeah.
That's a very tough question to take, tough decision to take. Which path should we follow?
There is no right solution. That's a problem.
I don't remember to spell it. Thank you, Mac.
It was me, but it's fine.
Thank you, Modern.
Yeah, so at this point, we are kind of questioning if
do we need an Helm chart at the moment?
If we even
Because
need a Helm chart, yeah.
Yeah, you have to add my hacky solution for the generation of the Helm chart in consideration also.
Yeah, that's the next thing. Customize. So we are even limited in what we can do in the Helm chart with customize being below the Helm chart or as used as auto generator.
yeah, either we maintain manually the chart.
Yeah.
But this is also then biting us because of this CRD issue.
Yep.
An option to solve that would be to actually get rid of customize, since we don't really need it for auto generation anymore now. Or not necessarily need it, I guess.
I mean, now we have an example of basically everything in the operator. We have validation, webhook, we have mutating, everything.
Yeah. So we could actually work around that by getting rid of customize.
And that could be an option to clean up our bag, which are all over the place because auto-generate.
Also that, yeah.
But that will basically solve just the last problem, not the previous ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also not a very big fan of customize because given our project size makes reading and compiling the manifest hard. with all these micro patches here and there.
Yeah, the big plus is that we get auto-generated roles and row bindings and stuff, of course.
Yeah, we are probably not using it to its maximum. Like if we would have multiple overlays for different way we want to deploy the thing, it would make sense. But like this, we have only two.
So my decision now is eventually we will move away from customized, but this is a different topic. And it's easier. The major problem is, do we really need a Helm chart at the moment, or is something that we need to evaluate after we get a management operator?
Yeah.
To
Or
be
you, Tom?
honest, today we discussed the first topic where it makes sense to have a Helm chart better earlier than later, because upgrading from a non-Helm chart installation to Helm chart installation might be painful.
It is impossible to upgrade to, you need to start from scratch.
Yeah, you need to have a completely new installation in this case. Remove the previous one and install the KLT via Helm chart.
And if whatever solution we have for CRT, they have to be removed also from the, which means data loss. No?
Yes.
So maybe just to get the ball rolling and have the chart as soon as possible, so we won't have data loss in the future. Shall we go ahead with having a chart without any values configurable? Only just the plain release.yaml file inside the chart. And with that, all the different CRTs versions.
I do not consider the values YAML file as a problem. Yeah, we have this small problem with the customized, but
Yeah,
that
and the
doesn't
solution.
hurt us that much. I think the bigger problem is the CRDs.
This is the single template solution.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
I just took a short look on the Prometheus on the Prometheus Helm chart. So it seems like they are installing the CRDs using a separate Helm chart.
That's the
And-
suggested solution.
And. Would be interesting how this looks dependency wise.
Let's go back to the Prometheus. Oh, this is the chart. Here looks like that you don't install them one after the other, or I'm looking at the wrong
Prometheus
documentation.
stack, yes. They have no CRTs. Oh, and in the Prometheus stack, they have the CRTs in the CRTs folder.
Are they stable? Maybe. Yeah.
I guess this is a bit different.
But they have when they have upgrading procedures. So when you take a look on the README of the stack, you see what should be updated when you update from 2.
Ooh. So CRD are completely out of the chart.
Initially, I think they installed them with the chart.
And then they
Yeah, it's
realized
initially
it was a
installed,
bad idea.
and then you need to update them manually afterwards.
So shall we try to go ahead with, let's try with making the life to our users the best possible experience and have a single chart without manual.
But
Cube.
the problem is, I'm not sure how we could build the dependency between the CRD chart and the other chart,
It's still impossible.
because otherwise this would still be cumbersome in a GitOps setup.
Exactly. So if you want to deploy lifecycle toolkit with your own whatever provider and whatnot, we still don't ensure that CRD exists.
Yeah, you still need manual, or under quotation marks, manual steps to actually do upgrades.
So to be honest, I would go for the moment with the third option, with everything inside the same template folder, and try to be as careful as possible. Because this sounds like the solution with the least drawbacks at the moment.
I'm also thinking that I have all versions of the CRDs there, so there will always previous version there, and Helm will not delete them. By the face of Moritz, you are not fully sure about the solution.
It still could have complication with rollbacks.
Having all CRD versions also means that we need to support all of the API versions in our operator, right? So that's not actually only Helm overhead, that's also actual code overhead. And more conversion webhooks and more validation, I guess.
So I think you always need only to have these versions which you have already supported at the moment. Because if you have custom resources with versions which are not supported, or and you drop the definition for that versions, they would be gone in any way.
Mm-hmm. But if done in the right way, we would have always to convert to the next. So every time we install the new one, they should be converted.
But
So
wouldn't
the conversion work you will have in any way. So
yeah. What is the conversion? So if you add a new CRD version, all the versions that existed in the cluster already, all the custom resources with the previous version that exist in the cluster already won't actually be upgraded, right?
yes, they are still stored in the old version.
So that's where the data loss actually happens.
Yes.
As soon as we remove that version.
As soon as you remove the old version, then it will get dropped, but this is independent of Helm.
True.
Mm. Oh.
And this is also the reason why you are doing conversion webhooks at some point in time, to ensure some kind of compatibility between CRDs.
But even then, even if you have conversion webhooks, the old version CRs won't actually be upgraded.
Yes.
That's the thing.
So we need to define how many versions we want to support. So let's say the last one, the last 2 or 3 ones. And to be honest, the lifecycle controller is the lifecycle toolkit is built in a way that if you update regularly, the old things might get deprecated in any way.
That
Because
is true.
when you create a new, when you add a new application, the application will get you will get a new application version and so on. The only problem would be that if someone does not deploy very often, that our resources get dropped at some point in time. But this will also not have any impact on the application. Because then the only thing what happens is that our resources are gone.
We
But
would just
the
rerun.
deployment and so
probably.
on is still there, as far as I know.
But you cannot recover it.
You can always install the new application thing. So you can
Yeah,
also,
but even then you get a new deployment and not,
yes,
there's no way of importing anything. Guys, I have another meeting. I need to go now, unfortunately.
Okay. But thanks for discussion, Moritz.
Yeah.
So
Maybe to record my opinion as well, I would actually go with no Helm chart at all and deal with the API versions myself. But yeah.
we can follow up in
Yep.
no chart. Okay, thank you.
See ya.
Bye bye. I'm also
Giovanni.
a bit now thinking about Helm chart. Do we really need this? But
I think this would be a good question for community members.
yeah,
But what are the biggest kind of pros of the Helm chart? It's standard, of course, and it provides the user the possibility to configure values, which in the current case, it's not
You
for
cannot
us that
choose.
important now,
Mhm.
in the current state, of
Also-
course.
Also for configuring values, I think that's why we also introduced the config CRD. So,
Yes.
and if that's the main way of configuring something, then the values file.
yes and no, because config CRD works well if you apply, but if you're
Mm.
using Terraform, Pulumi, hard to make it work.
So
But-
from an integration perspective, it's always easier to integrate a Helm chart than a manifest, to be honest.
Yeah.
So especially when it comes to Terraform or when it comes to, I think from a cross-plane perspective, it's not this relevant. But especially when it comes to Terraform, then Helm is the way to go.
But
Even
then
if-
we have to make sure that we can provide a good rollback with the single template. And the rollback still will probably delete something if we have changes in the version of the CRD. No?
The whole data loss thing is always a topic when you remove CRDs.
Yeah.
So when it simply comes to updating or adding new versions and so on, this is absolutely no problem. And we at some point in time we will get to a point where the resources will not change very often. Hopefully.
But we
Because
kind of
updating CRDs is always hard.
Yeah. At the moment, I think we need to pause a bit this topic and do
784 is a list of scenarios to test. Maybe this should be refined a bit. But it refers to that.
okay. So this scenario is we apply version 1 and version 2. What do you mean with this? Okay,
We
the
create a
CRD.
resource of one.
Then we delete the version of the CRD or of the resource.
Of the CRD and switch the storage to the second one.
Okay. Can you change and write CRD so we don't?
Sure. Yeah, it needs refinement. We just brushed it.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have I'm not logged in this account. And then we check if it works. Basically delete both CRD definition. Oh no, just V1,
Exactly.
sorry. And then we said V2 is the default one. Makes sense to me. This is inside the same template folder.
The first scenario is even without considering Helm.
Yeah,
Just
but
Cuttle test.
the second
And that,
one.
yeah, is a template, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, it's okay. We apply CRD 1, V2, resource, with rate V1. Identical? You mean the same as this one?
It's again V2 storage, but if we don't put it in there, then we lose it.
Good point. If we try to do the rollback. So this apply is basically Elm install and upgrade commands.
Yeah, I will modify them.
Okay. Without changing the version on scenario 4?
Yeah, this is the simple path. This should
Mhm,
work.
mhm.
It worked once, but I guess it would be good to have it as it is.
And I will check also at that check. Does the default value being applied to old values, to old CRDs?
What do you mean with default value?
If you had an optional field, if it's optional, means that there will be a default value somewhere.
So in the last one, okay.
Yeah. Then my question is, do the remaining CRD that we already have in the cluster have the default value present?
Mhm.
I always thought that Helm is a simple thing to use and create. Okay, we already spent quite a lot of time on this topic. We have many homework to make. I will jump to the next one, otherwise we cannot go over. But before that, I would like to give the word to Sudipto. Do you have any topics that you like to discuss with maintainers?
Well, I am very beginner in this space, and for the couple of weeks, I am trying to learn different things around Keptn. And today, I just I was able to set up. I was able to run a demo application that was in the example folder. But I think the description and the README was not so much descriptive for a beginner. So I think I can improve a little bit of it.
Awesome.
So
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you very much. Developing these things, we give everything for granted, and some external input is always more than welcome. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Okay. So maybe let's add this as a thing. I will fix them later. Okay, then I would like to jump to the second topic of today, the refinement of auto application discovery from Andre. So do you want to give a roundup on this ticket?
Oh, yeah. The question is how deep the roundup should be. yeah, probably start from the very beginning due to the community.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the whole concept of the auto application discovery should allow us to kind of take the existing manifest that the users already have, applied them to the cluster, and have an out-of-the-box automatic application already created without the manual user creation, which is the current state. What the users actually get from this feature is metrics out of the box, and yeah, that's much likely it for introduction. This ticket basically is a follow-up of the ticket for bootstrapping the Keptn app creation request custom resource. Also, it's a follow-up ticket after, or yeah, basically a parallel ticket to changes made to the webhook, which was refined in the last refinement, where the new update is basically that instead the mutating webhook creates a Keptn app. Now it creates a new Keptn app creation request, and the creation of the Keptn app is handled by the Keptn app creation request controller. So that's basically the main goal of this controller. Let's look at the technical details. I added at the beginning some explanatory notes. So for example, how to know if the Keptn app is user-defined. So the Keptn app is user-defined if it does not have the metadata.owner reference at all, because it's made and applied by the user. If, for example, the Keptn app was created by Keptn app creation request controller, it has got this reference in the metadata.owner reference. So therefore we can see if it was or not user created. The second thing is, how do we know if the Keptn app is single or multi-service? So the Keptn app creation request annotation, which is Keptn sh app type, has a value of single service. Then it's a single service. If it's got the value of multi-service, it's a multi-service. This decision is made by the mutating webhook, and it's based on the presence of the application Keptn application annotations in the workload or in the manifest, basically. The difference between a single service and a multi-service application is in the timeout. So basically, by a single service application, we do not need to wait another 30 seconds to have all the manifests applied, because we basically know that we have the one manifest already applied, and we can directly proceed to creating the Keptn app. In another case, if we have a multi-service, we need to wait a few seconds. This value will have a default of 30 seconds, but in the future it will be configured via Keptn config CRD, so that we are sure that we have all the workloads or manifests applied to the cluster before creating the app. Yeah, how it should actually work. So the workflow. In the first step, the controller should try to fetch the Keptn app if he finds it and it's user-defined. So then there is no auto application discovery needed. It will remove the Keptn app creation request and do not reconcile again. So that's basically it. That's the easiest scenario. Then second test, if the Keptn app exists and it's not user-defined, the controller checks the timeout. If it's not expired, it reconciles. So we're still waiting for the timeout. And the same applies if the Keptn app does not exist yet, then we check the timeout, and if it's not expired, we reconcile. What happens if the timeout has expired? Yeah, the length of the timeout, as I already said, is depend on if it's a single or multi-service application. Afterwards, the controller fetches all the existing workloads in the system which are pointing to the application, and creates or updates a Keptn app with the correct version. Just to know, the version of the Keptn app is computed as a hash of the versions of the workloads which are part of this application. So there are basically two scenarios. If the Keptn app does not exist, it's created. And if it already exists, then we are speaking about updating of the Keptn app, adding workloads, bumping the version of one of the workloads or more, and so on. So creation of the Keptn app, controller creates the Keptn app. Just a note here, we cannot forget to start the context of the app due to the traces. So we need to include the trace context carrier into the annotations. Examples are in the links, but that's up to the implementer to look at it. And of course, all of the existing workloads pointing to the applications are part of this Keptn app. When we are speaking about update of Keptn app, it's pretty similar. The controller fetches all the workloads and adds them or updates the existing workloads in the app with this newer state. After this is done, so the Keptn app was created or updated, the Keptn app creation request is deleted as, yeah, that's basically it, and the reconcile loop ends in this moment. So yeah, any questions or thoughts?
I do have a question. Because exactly today I was talking with Thomas about where does the trace or the trace start, and I was sure it was in the webhook, but in the code we have also a place where we start a trace in the app controller.
Yes, but that's the second one.
Yeah, exactly. So my confusion now is how we should name the two different traces that we create.
We do not. We basically start a trace in the webhook, and I suggest that the trace which we start in the webhook currently, we should start here in the Keptn app creation request controller. So basically just move the functionality from the webhook to the controller. That's not something that I would...
Yeah, exactly, because reading this, I was not sure. What of the two traces do you refer to?
No, the one from the webhook moved. Like we moved the functionality from the webhook to the controller, then this as well.
Could you please change the text to report that so there is no confusion for this?
How should I change it?
Just to say that move the logic from starting the trace of the webhook here.
I think it's pretty clear because if you click on the examples, they're referring to the webhook. So
true, fair point. It's kind of implicit where it's there.
Just a question to clarify: the one that's the trace that started in the webhook, that's the one for all the reconciliation loops, right?
Yeah, I think we need to follow up with two names. One is the observability deployment trace, and one is the Keptn lifecycle toolkit trace, where we describe what's happening behind the scene in the operator itself. Question from the rest of the folks here? Looks like we can refine the stick, but I need to use my other account. It doesn't update. Oh, here it is. Perfect. So we can close this ticket if it's clear. Then a follow-up after this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this ticket is basically about covering corner cases, which might happen during the creation of the app. Yeah, I described the corner cases. It was basically part of the previous ticket previously, but we as a team agreed that it should be good to split this because it kind of the complexity grows with covering all the stuff as part of the one PR or one ticket. So what is the corner case we are speaking about? Yeah, mostly what happens if we apply a Keptn workload with version 1 and before the timeout, and also with the version v2. What happens if it's applied after the timeout? So if the Keptn workload about version v2 is applied before the timeout expired, each of the currently present workloads will be added to the app. If there are multiple versions of the same workload, the latest will be applied by time. So if we applied workload v1 and 5 seconds later workload v2, and after 20 seconds the timeout has expired, the workload v2 will be picked to be added to the Keptn app. Any questions about the behavior of this?
It might be that this doesn't really need any additional implementation, right? It's just something to double check, because if we update a workload that we already had, then we won't have the previous one anyway. And then once the expiration deadline has exceeded for the discovery, then what's there will be taken.
Exactly. In Kubernetes, we always have basically the latest version of the same service deployment spots or whatever. There always one. There's no way that two of them can exist if they are not named the same. Okay, so I'll move to the second, which is a little bit trickier. So what happens if the Keptn workload v2 is applied after the timeout expired? For example, basic usage, we apply the workloads, the timeout has expired, and the Keptn app was created. And afterwards, after 2 days, a new version of the workload is applied, so version v2. So a change in the version of the workload could be interpreted as a change of the overall Keptn app. So we basically will bump the version of the Keptn app. In this case, a change in the Keptn app will result in the newer Keptn app version, which is basically done out of the box, but just for consideration, with a newly computed version, and will be created. So I guess this case is also covered out of the box if the implementation of the controller is done correctly. Yeah, just a note under the line, only the new workload will be displayed in the OTL trace of the Keptn app version, but that's basically expected because the trace itself displays what's happening in the system. So yeah, this is, I don't know if it will need additional implementation, but it's definitely good to consider these two cases and kind of create unit tests and component tests for these specific cases. Maybe also without any implementation changes necessary.
This sounds like a very good test-driven development scenario. Come up with a test and check if the implementation satisfies them.
Yes, makes sense, definitely.
Questions from the audience?
Maybe we should add cattle test also done?
I think component tests are more than enough in this case. We will have definitely cattle tests for the previous scenarios, but it's up to the developer what exactly will be needed, to be honest.
Hmm.
What would be the benefits of a cattle test, Anna?
In a component test, we kind of set up things on our own, so we a bit can fake things. Like we can add a resource halfway that would be generated by the operator otherwise. In a cattle test, we just put the input and see the output. It's more
Yeah, and that's I
for
think
this second
for
scenario.
But I
also
consider
very hard because can you send when the manifest will be applied? I don't think you can.
Sure.
Or can you
Of
really?
course. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know.
But
We
I
can
consider
put-
component tests, the cattle tests are more for the happy path, and these kind of corner cases are more to the component test, but it's up to the implementer.
Yeah,
If it's
sure.
component or integration test, doesn't matter.
I would also say that especially the second scenario would make for a nice cattle test.
Me too. I'm more in favor of that. As
Giovanni,
well.
I also usually add the E, but that's only for cows. It's without the E.
Damn it. It's boring that I need to use two browsers, Windows, to do the changes. Okie dokie. Further comments on this ticket? Then a good old documentation ticket. So Sudipto has no issue anymore to use this new feature. So Andre, do you wanna?
Yeah, basically, the goal is to document the newly introduced resource, create examples. Yeah, basic stuff, introduce it into the README, also create an input in the docs folder, create an example for the users where they can actually try it. The things we basically do for every new feature. Nothing much more to say about this, to be honest.
We might follow up on this line if it's really in the README or somewhere else in our website. Ah. If it should be inside concept, tasks, or the getting started. I don't think having everything inside the main README is helpful because it's already pretty long, unstructured, and
Yeah, but I think at least a basic concept with a link to the docs should be good there, that the users know that, okay, something like this exists and it's supported.
I've been thinking that this README, the content of it probably needs to be pulled into the docs in various pieces.
yeah.
And so one could update the README and then throw an issue, a documentation issue out there to pull this information into the docs. And
Yeah, we can create a follow-up afterwards.
right.
Okie dokie. Any further input on this ticket? If not, then I will call it refined. And we are done with the tickets that we have from the agenda. Any issue or PR from the rest of the folks here that you would like to talk and discuss?
Sudeepo, do you know how to proceed with the work you're talking about doing? I would just throw up an issue that describes the work you want to do and say that you're going to work on this. And then you can.
Yeah, I was looking at the sample app folder. So today I tried to make up and running a sample app, but the README was not descriptive enough for me. So I had a lot of difficulties while doing that. But in the end, I could set it up. And meanwhile, I already did a PR, a small PR. So that's that. But I think this page can be improved a lot so that any beginner can like set up a local Kubernetes cluster and then run the example app.
Excellent. So you already did a PR that helped some of it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Yeah,
Definitely.
so okay. Yeah, keep working on it because you're more the audience and we really need that. So
Yeah, right. Thanks.
yeah.
And another issue I was looking at that already has been assigned to me. I sent it to the chat, but I don't have like any idea or I don't know where to start. So if you could give me some hints on that, then that will be
Oh, sorry, I miss your ping.
Ah,
This one.
no
Poof,
problem.
poof,
I
poof.
just sent it. Yeah.
I can support with that one if you like.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Yeah, now I'm a bit hesitating because we just discussed Helm charts and we don't know exactly how to proceed. So this is exactly covering
Yeah.
pages for the Helm chart. I would say, anyway, it's worth for you to give it a shot because we don't know if we will go ahead with Helm charts or not. But if we go ahead with that, then we have a cool feature there. Then maybe you, Anna, and Sudipto can sync over Slack.
Sure.
Or just provide a comment here with a list.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we can, for now, support it via basic environmental variables, and if we decide to use charts, then we will. It will be quite straightforward to move into that.
I will not go with mvars, but more the config CRTs if we have to select something.
Or that's also an option.
Should we modify the ticket then, or?
I hate this. I need to go into my second account. 1 second. Okie dokie. Now you should see the edit. So shall we revert this from mchart to config, Keptn config? No input from the community.
So this would be similar to what we have for hotel collector now?
Yeah. I will still keep it in the charts, honestly, because this is a cool thing for a Helm chart. I will keep it as is, and then this is just for the chart. We are not adding the log value itself to the controllers. This is just for the charts. Should we now, my question is, should we create a follow-up ticket or do you want to do the implementation as part of this one? I think Sudipto, you're good enough. You can handle also a bit of Go code, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Giovanni, you provided already the logger example as second link.
Yeah.
How to do that.
So these values will configure the actually this is more definition of that. Okay. Perfect. And I think we are also over time by 4 minutes. If there are no further questions or things to discuss, I will call it a day. Thank you, everyone. I think it was a very nice conversation. And see you
Good
next
meeting.
time, same day of the week. So see you in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks, bye.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Bye.